the shocking, untold secrets of Niagara Falls, from natural wonder to industrial nightmare. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie behind the majestic beauty of Niagara Falls? A famous natural wonder, but perhaps you don't know that behind the roar of its waters is a story few know about, a chapter forgotten in American history. Over a century ago, Niagara Falls was not only a tourist destination, but also the center of an industrial empire, where this powerful water source was the lifeblood of an entire city. But as industry boomed, it also brought unforeseen challenges. The city, once a symbol of prosperity, could it transform into a picture of decay? The answer might be hidden in the mysteries we've yet to explore. Now join us as we uncover the forgotten history of the Niagara Falls Factory District. And if you enjoy this topic, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the fascinating content to come. The Niagara Falls area, where the water has flowed continuously for thousands of years, is a living testament to the fierce changes of nature. According to research, the process of erosion has created a unique ecosystem, where the power of the Niagara River not only shaped the landscape, but also determined life in the region. Situated on the border between the United States and Canada, Niagara Falls stretches for about 36 miles, an essential part of the Great Lakes water system. The river flows from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario, forming a natural boundary between New York and Ontario, and is an important route for transporting water from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. Before European settlers arrived, the Niagara area was home to wildlife such as deer, wolves, and beavers, with temperate hardwood forests covering the land. The river also served as a natural corridor for migratory birds. Geologically, the Niagara Escarpment was formed at the end of the Ice Age, over 12,000 years ago, when glaciers receded, leaving behind the landscape we see today. For Native Americans, Niagara Falls was not just a natural wonder, but also a sacred site. Some sources suggest that the roar of the falls was considered the voice of spirits, with the flowing water acting as a gateway between the physical and spiritual worlds. Legends speak of water gods residing deep beneath the river, and the natives held ceremonies to honor these entities. Niagara Falls, with its power, became not only a symbol of nature, but also a place that connected the spirit of humans to the invisible world. Niagara Falls was not only a natural wonder, but also the cultural and economic center for the surrounding native tribes. According to research, gatherings often took place along the riverbank, where oral stories were shared and alliances were formed. Some believed the mist from the falls was a sign of spiritual purification, and it was incorporated into sacred rituals, demonstrating a deep reverence for nature. In addition to its spiritual significance, this area also served as an important trade hub. Archaeological artifacts, including stone tools and pottery, show that Niagara Falls was a center of commerce among the tribes long before the Europeans arrived. However, the arrival of Europeans in the 17th century changed everything. Explorers like Samuel de Champlain, although never having seen the falls themselves, wrote about it based on information from the Native Americans. But it wasn't until 1678 that Father Louis Hennepin was the first European to witness and describe the grandeur of the falls in his book, which made Niagara Falls a legend in Europe. In the 18th century, as France and Britain vied for control of the Great Lakes region, the Niagara River became a strategic trade route. The French built Fort Niagara in 1720 to protect their commercial interests. But after Britain conquered Canada in 1763, control of the area shifted, and Niagara Falls became a hotspot in the struggle for power. By the late 18th century, as the French withdrew and the British took control of Fort Niagara, the area began to transform. Not only was it a strategic route, but the river was now recognized by European settlers as a valuable energy source. However, this change was not simple, as the native tribes who had lived there for centuries were gradually displaced, and their territorial rights were eroded. The sacred land they had valued now became an economic asset, with the river no longer serving religious purposes, but instead shifting to serve commercial interests. By the late 18th century, the Industrial Revolution was reshaping North America's economy. The first factories began to appear along the major rivers, and the water from Niagara Falls began providing power for industries, especially textiles. However, the true potential of the falls was not fully harnessed until 1882, when Jacob Schaefer built the first hydroelectric plant at Niagara Falls, using direct current DC. Although impressive, this system still had many limitations, as the electricity could only be transmitted over short distances. The real breakthrough came in 1896, when Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse implemented the alternating current AC system at Niagara Falls, ushering in a new era for electricity transmission and completely transforming the region, making Niagara a symbol of industrial power. By the end of the 19th century, alternating current AC solved the issue of transmitting electricity over long distances without significant loss. According to research, the first major test of this system took place on November 16, 1896, when electricity was successfully transmitted from Niagara Falls to Buffalo, New York, 22 miles away. This was a significant milestone, proving that hydroelectric power could not only supply energy to cities, but also to industries. The AC system developed by Tesla and Westinghouse turned Niagara Falls into a global icon in the power generation industry. With this success, Niagara Falls became not only an energy production hub, but also a driving force for industrial growth. However, the industrial boom also brought new challenges. The demand for infrastructure and labor increased, and the region became entirely dependent on the waters of Niagara Falls. But by the mid-20th century, as global competition increased, companies began to leave, seeking lower labor costs and new sources of energy. The aluminum industry and companies like Hooker Chemical and Union Carbide gradually abandoned the region. One of the most famous disasters was the pollution at Love Canal, where more than 21,000 tons of toxic waste were buried in a residential area. By the 1970s, the consequences of this pollution were undeniable, with cancer rates and related diseases rising sharply. In 1978, the area was declared an environmental disaster, marking a dark chapter in the industrial history of Niagara. In 1980, after the pollution at Love Canal became severe, President Jimmy Carter declared a federal emergency, forcing more than 1,000 families to relocate. This was the first area to be added to the Superfund program, a federal initiative for hazardous waste cleanup. However, Love Canal was just one of many abandoned industrial areas, where decaying buildings and increasingly apparent pollution became a major issue. The dangerous waste piles not only affected public health, but also triggered urban decay, rising unemployment, population decline, and once thriving neighborhoods now turned into deserted zones. However, Niagara Falls did not disappear. According to research, efforts to revive the area had begun, with the reuse of infrastructure and the harnessing of the region's natural assets. Niagara Falls itself. The old factories have now been converted into historical centers. One of the most significant sites is the Niagara Parks Power Plant in Canada, which has been restored into an exhibition space highlighting the role of energy in the region's development. In the United States, historical structures such as the pump stations and tail race tunnels have been opened to the public, offering visitors an immersive experience of the engineering marvels of Niagara Falls. While the region has moved away from industrialization, the remnants and ruins of industry still serve as a reminder of a time when Niagara Falls was not only a natural wonder, but also a symbol of industrial power and national innovation. If you want to continue exploring the secrets of Niagara Falls and the transformation of the city, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next discoveries.